The 50mm 1.8 Canon lens, also referred to as the Nifty 50, is one of the most popular lenses on the market today. And here are 10 reasons why you absolutely should consider getting one. Welcome to the channel, my name is Kai Song, and I get a lot of questions from people asking me what lens they should get when they're starting out, or what lens they should get after using the kit lens at a beginner entry level. And I always reply, get yourself a 50mm 1.8 Canon lens. The Nifty 50 is a very popular lens, and if you don't have one in your camera bag already, here are 10 reasons why you should seriously think about getting one. So reason number one has to be the price tag. It's a pretty well-known fact that lenses aren't cheap in general, but in comparison to a lot of good quality glass, the 50mm is actually very cheap. You can buy a new one right now on Amazon for around $100. That's less than £100. And on eBay, anywhere between $50 and $70, depending on the condition. Reason number two on our list is that 50mm focal length. Yes, it is a prime lens, so you only get a single focal length of 50mm with no zoom option. This means that you have to adjust the framing and composition of your shot by physically moving closer to or further from your subject of interest. But the upside is that prime lenses tend to be faster and sharper than zoom lenses in general, which we will talk a little bit about in a minute. 50mm is such a versatile focal length. It can be used for portrait photography, for product photography, and it also works really well for videography and things like indie short films. Bear in mind that you will have a crop of 1.6 on a lot of Canon crop frame cameras, that's APS-C cameras, and this will take your effective focal range from 50mm to around 80mm. Reason number three is that fast aperture of 1.8, which makes this lens perfect for taking photos or video in low light conditions. In fact, I purchased my first 50mm 1.8 back in 2015 when I had recently switched from using camcorders to DSLRs for wedding videography. I was shooting on the Canon 60 as an A cam, and I was using the 550D as my B cam. And what I realized was that everything would look great until the evening when the lights went down, and then all of my shots would start to look really grainy and generally unusable. And I used to try and combat this by using bright lights or spotlights, which blinded a lot of the wedding party and guests, and that wasn't ideal either. So I realized that I needed something to set up as a safety shot on my Canon 550D that would produce usable footage, especially for the reception and the first dance, but wouldn't cost me a fortune. And so I turned to the 50mm 1.8 as a cost-effective solution, and that worked really well for a few weddings until I started to invest in better cameras and more expensive lenses. Reason four is the bokeh. Yes, the aesthetic quality of the blur produced in the out-of-focus parts of an image, or the way the lens renders out-of-focus points of light. Now, bokeh is something that you easily get from this lens because of that fast aperture of 1.8. And that look is very desirable among photographers, filmmakers, and videographers, and really helps to make your productions look a little more polished and professional. Hence the reason a lot more modern phones have digitized that look for a more blurred out background. And another thing that I found out recently was a technique called the bokeh wall, which essentially consists of setting up a creased piece of foil, throwing a light on it, and taking photos or videos with the 50mm lens wide open at 1.8, which is a pretty nice look for product photography and video. Reason number 5 is the sharp images that this lens produces. I personally own a lot of Canon L glass, and that's because I want the sharpest, best quality images possible for my client work. And in comparison, the 50mm 1.8 holds up pretty well. Sharpness around the eyes of your model is generally where most people want their focus to be for videos and photos, and the 50mm does not disappoint in producing some pretty sharp images. Point number 6 is compatibility. I've had this particular lens for over 5 years, and I've used it on all my Canon cameras from the 550D, the 6D, the 5D series, and more recently the EOS R with the adapter. And a notable combination here would be the Canon M50 with the Viltrox speed booster and this 50mm 1.8 lens, because now you've got a camera and lens combination that can go all the way to f-stop 1 with a crop factor of 1.12-ish. Reason 7 is that it is very light. It only weighs 159 grams. And to put that in context, when you pit that up against the 70 to 200mm f-stop 2.8 version 2 L lens, it weighs over 1300 grams less. So carrying around a camera and the 50mm all day wouldn't be a problem at all. And if you check out the difference in picture quality when compared to a 70 to 200mm f-stop 2.8 lens, it's not bad at all. So it's not only lighter, but it's also more than $1,000 cheaper. Of course, this is a rudimentary comparison. There are stackfuls of points that trump the 70 to 200 over this 50mm, but this example helps to highlight how much value you get out of this little lens. Reason number 8 is the macro photography hack, and this is something that you might have seen a few photographers doing online. You basically take the 50mm off the camera, you spin it around and hold it in front of the sensor, and now you've got a makeshift macro lens, which is amazing for creative photography, artistic filmmaking, and if you mix up some different light in there too, you get some pretty interesting results to help mix up your creative projects. Point number 9 is the versatility of this lens for different projects. Like I mentioned earlier, I bought this lens originally for the sole purpose of using it on a B-cam setup for wedding videography. But over the years, I've come to appreciate that it can be used for almost any creative project in both filmmaking and photography. And because of that, I always have a little compartment for it in my bag for whatever project I'm working on. The final reason on my list is that it is perfect for beginners. If you're new to photography, if you want that DSLR look for your short films, travel photography and video, if you want to get experimenting with your creativity and not want to spend a fortune, then the 50mm 1.8 is the best lens choice for you. So are you convinced? Will you get one? Let me know down below. And if you've already got yourself a 50mm 1.8 Canon lens, what projects do you use it for? Again, let me know your thoughts down below. If you haven't done so already, guys, do consider subscribing to our YouTube channel and hitting that bell button for notifications. So that's it for me today, guys. Stay creative, imagine, implement, and inspire. Stay safe, and I'll see you next time on KaiCreative.